While I was waiting at the airport for our honeymoon departure, my wife called to tell me she couldn't make it because her ex texted her about an emergency. So I hopped on another flight and sent these pics to my wife, and now she is begging me to return. My wife and I got married about a month ago, and this week we were supposed to go on our honeymoon. But while I was waiting at the airport, she texted me that she wouldn't be able to make it because she had to attend to an emergency situation that her ex-husband had texted her about. For context, my wife is a bit of a workaholic, so she had a client meeting the morning that we were supposed to leave for our honeymoon. Since it was an important client, she had told me to get to the airport, and she would drive there from her office. That's why we had to come to the airport separately. I was already pretty upset about that because I really thought she could postpone that meeting. Then, on top of that, when she texted me that she had to be with her ex because of an emergency, I just lost it. I decided to get flight tickets for another destination to travel to be with my brother, and I did not even respond to any of her messages or apologies until yesterday. But even then, I just sent her a couple of pictures of me dancing at a club, and that's made our families very upset. Our flight was 3 days ago, and since then she hasn't stopped apologizing when she realized that I did not come back home when she couldn't make it to the airport but instead took another flight and visited my brother. Yesterday, I was very upset about everything that was going on, so my brother took me to a club, and we ended up dancing and getting drunk, which is why I decided to click a bunch of photos of myself and then send them to her. The purpose was to make her feel bad, but she went and told everybody in the family, and now people are scolding me because they think that it was very insensitive of me to disregard the emergency itself. For context, her ex had called her because he had tripped on something and twisted his ankle. His parents don't live in the same state as us, but I feel like he could have called his friends instead. He called my wife, his ex-wife, and she was the one who took him to the ER. Later on, after I landed, I did receive a couple of texts from her explaining the entire situation to me, but that just made me even more upset because I feel like he could have called anybody else on this planet, but he chose to call my wife, and she chose to ditch our honeymoon for this. She didn't even have the decency to call me. She just texted me that she had to miss the flight, and she hadn't even told me about what this emergency could possibly be. She didn't feel the need to explain anything to me until she had dealt with the situation at hand, and that's what's bugging me. This is not her situation to deal with. She could have contacted any of their common friends and sent them to him. At least that's what I would have done in her place because she knows I don't like her ex, and I wouldn't risk it. But everybody else says that I'm being too sensitive, and my jealousy is making me look like a pathetic insecure person. I don't agree with that, though. I feel like her ex should have called somebody else for help, and my wife shouldn't have gone, especially at the cost of our honeymoon. Given the reaction of both our families, I'm afraid that I might have gone a little too overboard with my behavior toward her. Update: okay, I did not want to speak to my in-laws right now because things are pretty heated, but I did explain the situation to my family. I've already been very upset with my wife for the past couple of days because I feel like after we got married, she's been taking me for granted. In fact, I would actually go further back and say that this has been going on for a while now. Ever since we got engaged, she's been spending all her time at work, and while I usually don't mind that, it's been getting a bit excessive, and she's been working like crazy over this promotion. Yes, it's been a little insane, and we've been having a lot of petty, bickering kind of fights before we got married. I was mostly trying to keep my cool since I thought this was just a phase, that she would get a little less intense about work with time, but that didn't happen, clearly. And then the thing with her ex, I know that in my post, I probably came off as a very insecure person. I don't blame anybody for thinking that way because anybody who doesn't know the whole story would probably believe that I'm the bad guy here. Honestly, though, I feel like I have my reasons since she and her ex have a very complicated history. They started dating in college and were together for 3 years, then married at 23, staying married for another 3 years before filing for divorce due to incompatibility. 2 years later, she met me, and we started dating. She had always been very upfront about her relationship with her ex, telling me that he had been a very important part of her life, and they had continued to be friends after their divorce because it had been amicable. Before I met him for the first time, I was not insecure at all. But then I saw how he acted around her, and I wouldn't say that I felt insecure, but I felt very uneasy. For context, they still have a group of friends from when they were in college, and they try to meet every couple of months. After we had been together for almost a year, my wife took me to meet her friends, and her ex was going to be there, like he always was. I was expecting him, and I thought I would be mentally prepared, but it got weird. I don't know how to explain it, but it was clear that he was obviously not over her. I don't know how to be specific about it, but from his behavior, I could tell something was off. He was trying to talk to her the entire evening, pouting if she didn't pay him enough attention. Even though he didn't try to be mean to me, he acted like I didn't even exist. The drunker he got, the less inhibited he seemed. By the end of the evening, I was quite uncomfortable, and I made my opinions very clear to my wife. At first, she pretended like she didn't know what I was talking about, but then when she noticed I was getting upset, she reassured me that this was the first time it had happened after the divorce. She told me that they had met a couple of times for dinner and drinks with their friends even after the divorce, and he had behaved completely normally. But maybe, this time, since he knew I was going to be there, he probably got a bit insecure and started acting weird. Maybe it was possible that he wasn't completely over her. I understood that he had been with her for a really long time, so maybe it was hard for him to see her with another person. I trusted my wife completely. Even though he acted insecure, it didn't change how she behaved with me. She prioritized me and ignored him. At our wedding, he was invited because I knew it would be weird to exclude him, especially since they were on good terms. Surprisingly, he behaved differently that day, nice to me and mostly kept to himself. That was pretty much the last interaction I had with him, and I thought things were cool. But then this incident took place. Obviously, you know where I'm heading with this. All her friends knew she was going on her honeymoon on this particular day, and I thought it was a pretty big coincidence for him to hurt himself that day. I found it strange that even though they had so many common friends, he chose to call her. She went instead of calling her friends, who could have been there for him. This, combined with her being a workaholic lately, just got to me. I had already been fighting with her a lot, and she knew I really didn't like her ex. That was the cherry on top for me. But what upset me the most was that she didn't even call me to explain the situation. She just texted me and left it at that, as if I would just understand. Yes, I took a flight to my brother's place out of anger because I didn't want to be alone. I don't think I did anything wrong, especially when she had already decided not to make it to the honeymoon. If she genuinely wanted to make it up to me and apologize, she could have just flown here and done it in person. After sending her those pictures of me having fun, I didn't expect her to drag our families into it. I didn't complain to her parents, but now I feel even worse. My brother has been defending me to our parents, and they have finally acknowledged my side of things. I don't blame them for being upset initially, but at this point, I don't know what to do. Since I sent her those pictures, she stopped trying to contact me. Her parents are still texting me, telling me I need to apologize to her for being so petty, but she hasn't been saying anything. I'm planning on going back home in a couple of days to talk to her in person. Right now, though, I just feel upset about this whole thing. But still a huge update 1. First off, thank you to everyone who reached out on my last post. It really helped me clear my head. I've been struggling to process everything, and while my brother has been there for me, I felt like sharing with strangers would help me gain a better perspective. And it did. Quick update, I booked my flight back home. It's been 2 days since my last post, and my in-laws are still texting me, but I haven't heard a word from my wife. I'm guessing she's upset about the pictures I sent her. But to clarify, it wasn't like I was partying with a bunch of women, it was mostly guys in the background. I get why she's mad, though. If I were in her shoes, I'd probably feel the same way. But here's the thing, I don't think she understands why I'm upset. If she did, she would have made more of an effort to reach out. All she did was send a few texts and calls, and honestly, that doesn't feel like enough. This was supposed to be our honeymoon. For God's sake, she should know how important this is to me. I don't think she even gets that, because she's been apologizing as if it's no big deal. I've even talked to a few friends, and they all think my reaction is justified, especially since I've never trusted her ex. My parents, after hearing both sides, are telling me I need to be the bigger person. They want me to talk to her when I get home, but I'm not sure I even want to. Sure, maybe sending the pictures was petty, but her running to our parents like I was a teenager? That's petty too. I'm just frustrated. It feels like I'm the only one trying to make this work. Love should mean something, but it's not enough if I don't feel respected. Right now, I don't. She hasn't even tried to reach out, and I'm wondering if she ever will. My brother thinks I should stay with him a few more days until she comes to apologize or until I realize it's time to move on. I'm tempted, but I don't want to play games. We've been together for so long, and I still love her, but right now I'm not sure she's willing to try. Anyway, that's where I'm at. I'm just venting right now because I can't talk to friends or family without hearing their opinions. I'm stuck in a mess of emotions and don't know what to feel anymore. Update 2. I got home today. When I walked in, the house was locked, and it looked like it hadn't been cleaned in days. Weird, right? I called her, and she didn't pick up right away. Finally, at 9 a.m., she answered. I asked where she was, and she told me to wait for her. So I waited, feeling more uneasy by the second. I knew something was off. I was sure she had been staying with her ex. Sure enough, she walks in and admits she's been with him the whole time. She'd been staying with her ex, lying to me the whole time, and I was left wondering if she thought I wouldn't find out. I lost it. I couldn't believe it. I was so angry I could barely contain it. She tried to justify it, said she had to help him because his parents couldn't. But I wasn't hearing any of it. She told me she'd been sleeping on the couch, but honestly, I don't care. The fact that she didn't think it was important to tell me while I was hurting just makes it worse. And here I was, beating myself up over those damn pictures, when she had been with him the whole time. I'm so furious I don't even know what to do. I told her I couldn't stay in this relationship anymore, grabbed my bags, and left. I went straight to my parents' house and laid it all out. They've already started looking for a lawyer for me. I blocked her as soon as I got there. She's texted me dozens of times saying she's sorry, but the fact that she's still defending herself just makes everything worse. I'm done. If I had known she was with him, I would have acted sooner, but I didn't. And now I don't care anymore. Update 3. It's been a couple of weeks since my last update. I filed for divorce. She didn't contest it, and soon we'll be able to finalize everything. She did send me an email apologizing for how things turned out, but in her eyes, I'm the one who's insecure and jealous. It took everything in me not to explode reading that. Even now, she can't admit how wrong she was. Even her parents called my parents to lecture them about my behavior, but my parents told them to get lost. I've made some big decisions. I'm moving in with my brother, and I've accepted a job offer from his company. It's a huge change, but I'm looking forward to it. My friends and family all think I need a fresh start, and honestly, they're right. I loved her, but she turned out to be a total disappointment. I'm excited for what's next. I'll be closer to my brother, I'll have a new job, and I'm ready for a new chapter. I'm hopeful for the future.